The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Just FYI, I'm having a little bit of trouble with xmrchat.com. It doesn't seem to be loading the recent tips. So maybe...
What do you mean? You're seeing tips come in that...
So the page is loaded, and I'm seeing here the, I can hit play on Twitch to start playing Monero Talk. But the recent tips they're just like grayed out. Like it looks like it's trying to load, and it's kind of doing that flashy thingy, but I'm not actually seeing any of the tips.
I will let the guys know. Thank you.
That's on ungoogled Chromium. If I do it over here on LibreWolf, it seems to be working. It seems to have loaded, but that was also a moment ago. Anyways, kind of the point being, I may or may not see the tips as they come in. So, I mean, not that would be any different than normal for me missing the tips as they come in, but
I will try to catch them and ring them up.
Okay, cool.
Alrighty.
All right, yeah, let's just. Do you have any business, any other things?
No. Let's. Curious if we're still in privacy season.
Okay, XMR chat did load for me on Firefox Mobile as well, so it's might be just on Google Chromium, or it might be something we're not sure, but it did load for Firefox Mobile for me as well.
Oh, it actually just came up. I sat here for like 4 minutes waiting for it to load on Google Chromium, and it just came up. So, all right.
Interesting.
All right, maybe I'm back in the game here. Great work, guys, said Paul Larkin. Probably that's an old one. He tipped 0.0012531 XMR. I guess he gets a double whammy for that one.
Why aren't I seeing them pop up on the comments then at all? No?
That might be an old one. The Paul Larkin comment, that might be an old one. Yeah. I just gave him a double credit for that one, I guess, just in case.
I think they really should add a date or a time at least. Like
actually, that would
chats.
be huge.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, phase 2 says Zuku glows in the dark. That one's probably worth saying twice. So
yes, that was from yesterday's Monero Talk show.
Yeah. I assumed you would have already said it today. I just felt like saying it again because it's funny.
He's gonna be glowing in front of the SEC.
Of course.
2 weeks.
I don't think you'll be able to tell though. Like you won't be able to see his glow in front of the glow of everyone else he'll be surrounded by.
We don't need to, we could get into that if you. I would like to hear your opinion on that if you want to.
This is the first time hearing of it. I didn't know he was going to the SEC.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up in the news. I mean, it sounds like they're going to have some, kind of roundtable thing with the SEC. He'll be giving a presentation, and then there'll be like a panel discussion. And it's the SEC, I guess, is exploring privacy coins, essentially.
That's hilarious. So they're going to have a quote-unquote round table. Of course, the SEC sitting at King Arthur's round table will be the only one with a gun in the room. Everyone else will, is kind of begging them for this and this and that. But okay, it's a round table. I love the fucking euphemisms and the way George Carlin talked about playing with language, abusing language. All right. No, that's interesting. I'm definitely interested to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will ultimately be good for Monero, bringing awareness to it. But yeah,
are they going to say the M word live on television?
I
highly doubt any of them.
I think the vast majority of the community would disagree with you, Doug. Sorry, but I just feel like that's probably the case.
That Monero becoming more well known in society is a bad thing.
No, that like it's going to be brought up at the SEC or whatever. Like I think.
I don't think they're gonna say the M word at the SEC. I don't think so. Yeah, it's all Zcash guys. I mean, you have that guy JW. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's an attorney. He's
I just think and I think I represent the rest of a lot of the Monero community, that we think you believe too much in the political process.
No, I guess I'm not using the correct words, or I think maybe you guys are just so like I don't know, you're not listening to me. Like maybe do the steel man my argument. Body, steel man my argument.
The idea of participating in the political process is primarily, first and foremost, to get attention, bring public awareness to whatever topic it is that you want. The chances, Doug, if I'm steel manning your position, there is some small chance that we could make regulatory changes that are going to benefit Monero. But in general, the more important factor is that, hey, we're going to have someone up there talking about privacy coins in front of the SEC. This is going to get attention from the general corpus of the United States.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just seeing it as it's bringing attention to Monero. Like the meme is growing. People will learn about privacy coins, and eventually, if they're learning about privacy coins, they will eventually learn about Monero. I just see it as good marketing for Monero, and it helps kind of widen the Overton window, right? Making it, normalizing it, people talking about it, just like what we saw happened with Bitcoin, right? Originally, Bitcoin was basically labeled as a tool for the dark markets, and now it's completely normalized. Now, I understand people fearing that we don't want that to happen to privacy coins, but if they work as intended, it can't happen. So you'll get the normalization without the cuckery, because if Monero works as intended, they won't be able to defang it. That's the hope. I mean, that's our only hope. And there's really no way for us to stop governments from talking about it and bringing it up. So there's really nothing we could even do.
I mean, there is a really good case to be made that if the word privacy or the term privacy coin gets used in front of, I don't know, some regulatory body, that some amount of, and gets the attention of more people, right? And it becomes a quote unquote thing, the new thing, that's going to spill into Monero. Like there is going to be spillover, because you can't talk about privacy coins without talking about Monero. We have at least achieved that. Like as a community, you can't go research privacy coins anywhere and not accidentally come across Monero. So there is something to be said for that.
Exactly.
I think mostly I would regard such a thing with just inherent skepticism. And in this case, I would use skeptic mostly in its sense of neutral, like just show me the evidence, but also with a slight amount of disbelief. Right? There's kind of two versions of that word. The colloquial version is skeptic, like I kind of disbelieve. I would be suspicious, right? I would be looking for like, okay, what's their angle? What are they trying to accomplish here? In what ways are they going to try and do something that actually harms Monero on the back end, right? Maybe it looks like it's good for Monero, but what are they going to, like, what might they be doing on the back end? I don't know. I would just, keep at least a neutrally skeptical position on that. No, I'm not suggesting you, Doug. I'm just saying personally, that's how I approach it.
Sure. I mean, I don't think anybody in this community isn't skeptical of the government, right? Like, but yeah, maintain that skepticism, everybody, 100%.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Ever since I went on that podcast, I've been getting offers from some larger names trying to contact me on Twitter, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to play your game, right? They wanted me to participate in some stuff, and I'm, I won't say who exactly, but some people that like you guys have heard of, right? News outlets, crypto news outlets.
But what's your fear there?
It's not that I have a fear. It's more just like these guys have treated Monero in the past with disdain and scorn. And I'm not sure that I want to go participate in their, and play their game. I don't know what their angle might be, and I don't know what they what their intentions are. So I think I'm basically going to decline to participate in those things. Like someone like
I would encourage you to do it, man. If anybody could pull it off, it's you, right? You're not going to roll over, and you're going to very effectively get your side out. And then the truth will rise to the top. I mean, unless they then like butcher it and edit it. But if it's like some live event, I think you should definitely do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made both ways. I definitely understood. I knew that would be your position for sure. I don't mind going on a guy like Thread Guy. He's just a sole degen that like, okay, there's some like privacy coin pivot here. Like, tell me some stuff. Let me give Monero a fair shake. That's one thing, right? But like going to interact with these guys who I know are nefarious is in a lot of cases a very dubious proposition.
Yeah.
Or I should
You
say
might
have
be
shown
giving them
themselves.
too much credit too, though. I mean, yes, they may effectively be nefarious, but I don't know if there is. I don't even know who you're talking about. But in general, right? Like if people are as planning, as plotting as you may think, I mean, they're probably just greedy people that are trying to make money. And if like it currently aligns with having Bawdy on the show to talk about Monero, you know, that's why they're doing it. Maybe not to hurt Monero, but just to make more money, right? It's probably their angle. I
It's
don't even know
possible.
who they are.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'll think about it some more.
All right, what's been going on with the price? It doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot to me.
Yeah, crypto overall trying to recover, basically recovering to the place that I was like, yeah, you should get long here. So if you survived that, that liquidation wick, then maybe you could have some big upside here. Monero doing pretty good. Is privacy season over? Doesn't quite look like it to me. Zcash season might be over. Hard to say on that one. Let's see. Oh, Doug, can you maximize the charts for me? Okay, so we're looking here at the Monero price chart, and I don't know, things look pretty good to me still. Obviously, we're basically flirting around $400. That seems to kind of be the steady state price. So $400 sitting right here at this white line. Overall, I would say this still looks like a decent chart structure on the short term time frame. This does. It's starting to look a little bit like Monero, on a TA sense, right? And again, just what are my feels? What do the spider tinglies say? And also, Spider-Man is gay, so I'm just like, don't take that. I'm not gay. Anyways, fucking retarded. Yeah, so it feels like Monero might need to go down a little bit further, like I don't know, maybe 370, right, 380. But I know there will be some people that will say on Twitter that I'm going to say that reason for going down would be manipulation. I think they're just joking and kind of jabbing, sparring for some fun. But anyways, yeah, Monero's fine. Like I don't see any real problems here with Monero. Let's go to the Zcash really quick and just see what Zcash looks like because, well, it doesn't look great. If you got in early, then like you're still doing fine. But Zcash up from its 742 down to 300 is where it fell to. So that's like minus 60%, which is kind of a lot to fall even for a bull market. All of the other pullbacks on Zcash were like 36%, and this other one here was 29%. So overall, Zcash, like normally you would, at least let's go backwards. Bitcoin in bull markets has traditionally never really shown minus 50%, minus 55%, and then continued on to glorious new heights. Zcash being an altcoin and smaller market cap, maybe it can do that, right? Maybe that's a possibility here, but I wouldn't say that it looks particularly amazing for the Zcash chart at this moment. That doesn't mean it can't come back. In fact, if crypto does come back, I fully expect Zcash to try to make another run at this. It'll probably make a new high, but it'll probably be like a marginally higher high, right? That RSI bearish divergence kind of thing. That's probably what we'll end up seeing. I don't think that Zcash is going to 2,000 or 1,500 post haste, right? At best, it's going to at least like try to make a new all-time high, like maybe 800. Maybe it'll even get to 1,000. And I guess from there, we'll just kind of we'll have to take it, play it by ear and see what happens there.
Hopefully, Tux sold his bag.
Who?
Tux.
Oh yeah. I mean, because he was somewhere around like 250. He was like, man, I hope it gets back to 300. I'm like, don't worry, bro. You're probably gonna get that back. So somewhere in there, I bet you he was taking profit. Tux is a smart guy, so I bet you he was taking at least a little bit of profit on that. But yeah, I don't know. Can Zcash make a comeback? It's coming up here on a pretty strong level, although that level is kind of dissolving. So on shorter time frames, like say the 30-minute chart, I can tell you that Zcash looks like it's going to want to try and do some stabilization. It could have a wick down to maybe like 285 and then try to come back. I think, again, a lot is going to depend on whether or not crypto can make a comeback here. We'll get into that. I actually got to tip my hat at Tony for bringing up something that I had completely missed. I didn't know it was out there, and I think is relevant. But we'll get to that in a second. So let's finish up here with XMR and say, what do we think is going to happen with XMR? I don't know, bros. Maybe a little bit of a pullback followed by some more positivity. I think that there's based on the recent action, right? Since October, Bitcoin has had problems, crypto has had problems, but since October, Monero went from 300 to 400 and has had this like nice steady movement, with some volatility up and down. But overall, Monero has had this nice trajectory towards the upside. So what do I see in store for Monero? Probably like some more like generally sideways to mildly positive action over the course of weeks and in the course of months. But that's really what I would expect, just given the history of how crypto has had problems, but Monero has sort of continued doing well. And Monero has continued doing well even as privacy season has had a pullback, right? Zcash, right? We say, well, when I hear privacy season, I just hear fake Zcash pump. Like that's what I hear in my mind. But okay. The privacy season has had a little bit of a pullback to the tune of minus 60%. So has Pirate Chain. Pirate Chain has also had a big pullback here. It might even be worse than Zcash. Let's take a look. Minus 75%. That's unsurprising. The Diet Pepsi of Zcash, aka Pirate Chain, although slightly more anonymous than a Coke machine, has had a 75% pullback. That is, I guess, problematic if you're a Pirate Chain holder. It didn't even make it to our standard deviation levels. It stopped short and then pulled back. So I guess how useless is my wave magic in that case? We didn't even make our targets there, which is kind of why you sort of should take profits little by little on the way up. Okay, Xano also fell. Hasn't really. How much has Xano fallen from its peak? Tried to make a new all-time high, but failed. Minus 33% on Xano. Yeah, you're fine there. You could say Xano is still fine from a charting sense. And also, typically people don't believe in double tops, although this isn't quite a double top, but it's close enough. So far, you would say Xano's fine. Again, the way crypto goes, just like the way Zcash will go with crypto, Xano will go with Zcash, and maybe Pirate Chain will even make a comeback here if crypto can come back and Zcash can come back. I don't know. MoneroTopia, not really doing that great either. I guess, I don't know, bros. Tari just seems to be down and down. Maybe the inflation, maybe we got to wait for like a quote unquote halving, even though I doubt it's an actual halving. It's, probably just a decreasing supply. Maybe there's just too much inflation, people selling it. I don't know. I'm telling you, at some point, this coin is going to be a good buy. I don't know if I can tell you when that point is going to be. It's probably a good enough buy. And then just hold, like I said, hold it for a couple of years. Don't put a lot of money into it. Put a couple percent. Cubic, sucking ass. Big surprise. Did they break their all-time low? No, not quite, but they double tapped that bottom. This chart is definitely, nothing goes down in a straight line. Maybe Cubic can manage to do it, though. I don't know. But we would still be looking for some kind of rebound a little bit higher for Cubic. But, I mean, this chart is bad. Cubic's done. Hopefully they can go attack Doge. I think that would be pretty funny. It would also be attacking Litecoin at the same time. And that's kind of actually a reason, if we think that Cubic might be somehow involved in the quote unquote cabal, the deep state, whatever, right? They might have some kind of support. Who knows? If that's the case, they're probably not going to go and try to attack Litecoin and Doge, because the point was to attack Monero and make Monero look bad. So why would they then show that all the proof of work coins have these problems? It has the same problem, right? Why would they do that? And then again, with the ASICs, maybe that's a lot more difficult than it would seem, but maybe it's more possible than people think, right? Like, is there 25% of Litecoin, Dogecoin ASICs that would be willing to go play ball with Cubic to get some selfish mining attacks? It would be hard, given that they were unprofitable on Monero and doing that. That would be hard to justify that. But again, if they're using their token to subsidize that attack, but again, who's going to pay for that token? Who's going to pay that premium to subsidize the attack? Why would they do that? Right? Charlie Lee doesn't want to attack his own chain. So anyways, all right. Cubic's probably basically over. Maybe they'll find a way to make a resurgence at some point here, but I don't think that point is anytime soon. Monero versus Bitcoin, still doing quite well. Bitcoin has had a bit of a comeback, but Monero has also continued to show strength. So we are sitting at like 0.004% of Bitcoin's market cap. What an abysmally retarded market. And yes, markets can be wrong, so fuck you. And fuck markets. I don't know. I'm just trying to be inflammatory over here. Let's see if we're gonna do my head and shoulders pattern and say, where should this thing top out? Right? Where would our quote unquote target be from a head and shoulders pattern? probably, I guess, I'm just eyeballing this, so we're not going to do anything too crazy. It's got this upward slope to it. So we're actually not anywhere near where that target would be, because you take the neckline and the distance, and then but there's an upward slope. So should you do it from the median price down here and make that your target, or should you like do it from the breakout point of the upsloping shoulder line? This is where it's like you just start. This is where it becomes tea leaves. Like, okay, like, yeah, there's an upward target there, but rather than doing nonsense lines that look like freaking tea leaves and some like movie reference, I would just go with the statistical bands and probably say that, or just go backwards, look at the horizontal areas of significance and say, I don't know, probably where the Binance delisting and the fall off happened, right? Late in 2023.
Astronomy for dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Why would we do astrology? I mean, okay, yes, because there's a sociological component to this, and yes, trends are a real thing, and yes, you could say statistically speaking, right, the trajectory of the chart is such, but eventually, that's going to break, right? Just like the big Bitcoin regression analysis I have is going to break. It's not going to hold up forever. It's just short-term extrapolative value, but because it's such a big, broad, long-term chart, the short-term extrapolative value is something on the order of at least a couple years in front of us. So that becomes useful. But anyways, yeah, so I don't know. I freaking kind of got lost there. But yeah, Bitcoin versus Monero, right, is doing pretty good. Maybe we still have some ways to go. Again, like if you're playing in the degen trading market, you take your profits into Monero, right? Why would you go into Bitcoin? Monero outperforms Bitcoin in bear markets because we don't have the crazy volatility. We don't have the crazy blow off tops and the nonsense that happens. So we actually have a better stable price. And I think that the Moon Boys need, I don't even want to tell them to stop being Moon Boys because I know they're not gonna, but I just wish that they would update their marketing slightly, right? Say, listen, Monero performs better in bear markets. Help us get that. Like, if any of you Moon Boys are out there listening, please listen. Just slightly adjust your marketing. Inform the masses, inform your degens, inform your followers and the noobs that you're bringing on from the various cultures that are out there, whether that's the pro Clash of Civilizations, the Groypers, right? Or whether that's the Soul Degens. Just get out there and be like, listen, Monero performs better than Bitcoin in bear markets for obvious reasons. You want to take your profits from your degen coins into Monero because we have real strong organic adoption, which spells long-term price improvement. So you can actually hang on to those gains by dumping them into Monero. If you want to have a price narrative for number go up, that's your price narrative, boys. That is the thing that is going to cause the greatest amount of price appreciation in Monero if you want to get like an NGU narrative out there, right? Just frame it in a way that maintains a connection to the principles that we started with, right? Because those principles work, by the way. Y'all weren't here for it, but we got massively attacked from every which direction, and Monero survived where every other coin would have folded. Every other fucking coin that had gone through what Monero went through from 2019 to 2025 would have died, and Monero survived. So obviously we're doing something right in terms of the way we market and think about the coin and principles. We're just asking that if you're new, slightly new, been here for a couple years, just maintain a little bit of a foot in that same kind of principled stance, right? Just, you can keep your NGU narrative, but please just modify it slightly, and this will be good for everybody, for me, for you, for our gains, etc. All right, yet I digress. Is there anything else to talk about with Monero price? I don't think so. Monero versus gold, still doing sideways action. Probably going to keep doing this for a long time because gold is extremely positive right now. It's not at new all-time highs, but it is looking really strong. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Monero versus gold, guys. I don't see any reason why this chart has to break one direction or the other. I would actually prefer this chart to just be, I would rather Monero be slightly better than gold because we have a lot of market cap to make up. I would just rather see this chart making, nice little steady continuous gains for years into the future, over long time frames. Getting a nice chart that acts like that will get us greater market cap relative to gold. This chart is mildly bullish, right? In terms of the bias of the action, right? The action for the past couple months for 2025 does seem to be slightly biased towards the upside. We've got a nice uptrend there. We are starting to consistently outperform the sort of like median level. Let's just call it 75 to 1 on the price. So it does look nice. I don't know if that informs any trading decisions for anyone in the near term. Divergences to Kraken have not done anything interesting. Cool. We don't need to talk about that. let's go to crypto and let's talk about the thing that Tony pointed out last week in the news. Thank you, Tony. So it was this X post. Without reading everything, if you want to read it for yourself, you can just kind of scroll through here. But there are digital asset treasury companies. They're called DATs. I guess this is a new acronym. But think MicroStrategy, right? Or maybe they're just strategy now. If there's like a rebrand, it doesn't matter. We're just going to call it MicroStrategy because that's what everyone knows it as. MicroStrategy holds a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Surprise. And one of the things that they have managed to do is get themselves included in a number of indexes, right? So MicroStrategy is included in the NASDAQ 100. There is one in particular called MSCI. I've never heard of it, but apparently they're a big deal. They have many leather-bound books. And they're like, I don't know, maybe the number 3, right? There's like S&P and NASDAQ and Dow Jones, but they're like they're pretty massive. They're a global index a global index company or whatever organization, and they organize a bunch of different indices that track different types of assets. And so these Bitcoin treasury companies like MicroStrategy have been playing a game where, and this is a known phenomenon called the index effect. Once you get your stock listed on some indexes, that forces quote unquote forces the index to buy. So that helps to drive up your stock price, which gets you included in other indexes, which forces those indexes to buy. And that buying pressure causes your stock price to go up. And MicroStrategy has been using that as justification for taking more loans to buy more Bitcoin. And which of course means that they have a greater asset valuation. Their balance sheet looks better, which causes more buying, which causes the index effect to amplify. So this isn't anything new. This is something that happens, but MSCI, this organizer of various indexes, big ones across the world, it's apparently they're the world's second biggest index company. So that's a big deal. What they're saying is that, listen, and MicroStrategy isn't the only one. Listen, all of these digital asset treasuries companies who are holding greater than 50% of digital assets on their balance sheet are actually not really operational companies. They're more like funds, and we're not sure they should be included in our indexes. And if so they haven't said that they're definitely going to remove them, but supposedly by January 15th, they're supposed to make a ruling here. Not a ruling because it's not a court case, but they're going to make a decision on whether or not they're going to include DATs with 50%, more than 50% of their balance sheet as being crypto assets. If they're going to classify them as funds and then remove them from their indexes, which would cause an outflow, JP Morgan said, of about $3 billion. So, but maybe the bigger story here is that this could also cause other funds to reevaluate their position on whether or not these companies, it could cause other indexes to reevaluate their position on whether or not these DATs are funds or actual operational companies. So perhaps we could see the removal from other indexes. This, I don't know. Sorry, this happened on October 10th, and we've had problems with the Bitcoin price since October 10th, right? Let's see. Let's go right back to, what am I doing? Wrong spot. Right, yeah. So you can see actually October 10th was the actual peak, or almost the peak, just a few days before it. And ever since then, things have fallen. So is this a nice thing, a nice convenient explanation? This is the reason why Bitcoin has been falling. We've figured it out. I don't know, maybe. The market doesn't like uncertainty, obviously, and the speculation that a significant portion of the buying has been the index effect, and that a lot of that liquidity is responsible from the index effect. And the unwinding of that, right? Maybe that could be a factor here, that speculative problem, and maybe it could compound, right? Maybe MSCI isn't the only company that would end up doing this. It's possible, right? It's hard to say for sure, but I think that could be a factor in why Bitcoin has had a much more difficult time getting it up than the stock market, because the stock market is basically recovered. Let's just go to the S&P 500. And take a look. Yeah, the index, the S&P 500 here. I mean, what are we looking at? 0.5% off of all-time highs. This is a chart that looks absolutely fine to me. Interesting, because this is the Trump tariff. As far as I'm aware, the Trump tariffs have not been ruled on yet. So if the Trump tariff rulings come out, right, striking them down, holy shit, this chart is just primed to mega pump. And for the S&P, mega pump will be 10%. Of 10% over the course of a week or two, or a few weeks, which for Bitcoin or crypto could just be the course of a few hours. So yeah, stock's looking fine. They're honestly looking primed to mega pump. Probably some insiders already know what that ruling is going to be because, I mean, the Supreme Court has shown itself to be corrupt as fuck, but they have absolute immunity. So I guess that's even better than getting a COVID vaccine. Getting absolute immunity for your political crimes and corruption is far better. So yeah, interesting how that works. NASDAQ also similar story here, doing quite well. Don't really need to talk about the stock market. And I mean, it's the show is still rolling, guys. Like we got the macro. There's gold. We'll talk about gold in a second. We've got the macro. Everything's fine. We said, hey, Dixie is looking like it's gonna Dixie is gonna pump here at some point. But like we said, don't trust that it has to happen immediately. This is slow moving. It is biased towards positivity. The more likely scenario is that it does come up when it breaks the orange bands here, when it sets a new local high. That's probably when we really need to start looking at is the show pretty close to wrapping up. For now, it touched a very unusual pattern actually, to touch the top of the wave magic orange bands here and then touch it again and then pull back again. But that's kind of unsurprising because for one, it's a currency index, so it moves a lot slower, and two, it's something that they want to manage. They want to keep the show going for as long as possible. That's the name of the game when it comes to stock market. At some point, the mathematical realities have to come. The piper has to come calling. And yeah, there will be a big washout. But again, the macro doesn't say anything that has to happen. The reverse repos still at 0, no problems there. U.S. oil sitting at 60, right? It's managing to hang on at that lower level. So everything like basically fine with the macro. Obviously, we got to look at bonds, which are also not showing anything that interesting, although maybe of slight interest, I guess. I don't even know if it's worth pointing out, but the very short-term 3 and 6 month yields have actually come down significantly and are starting to now finally get back in trend with the longer-term yields, like the 1, 2, and 5 year yields, which on my overall inversion tracker, all the other inversion trackers that you see are the 2 year versus the 20 year, or like some subtraction of two specific yields. I just aggregate all them together, right? From the 3 month to the 30 year, we just subtract them all from one another and we say, what does the overall inversion picture look like? This is the power of writing your own scripts and thinking for yourself. You don't have to listen to stupid pundits tell you that the 10 year versus the 1 year is the sign of inversion that matters the most, right? And inversion hasn't appeared to matter at all. So maybe this is a case of where an observed signal becomes noise, right? Because inversion correction used to be the thing. Maybe we just need more correction of the inversion before we get the macro crash. But I mean, we don't need to talk about macro crash yet. So don't worry about it. Don't think about it at the moment. We're not at that point. Really, the question we all want to know is, can Bitcoin make new all-time highs? I think that I think that a lot kind of depends on this news thing that we're talking about, right? The MSCI, the index effect. I think a lot might depend on that. If we get a favorable, hey, we reconsidered our position, and we're going to think about it some more, or we're not going to do that. All right, well then Bitcoin's going to pump, right? It's also an interesting question to ask ourselves: if Bitcoin has fallen this much on the basis of a single fund, of a single index company, determining that, hey, maybe maybe MicroStrategy and these other companies are actually funds and not real operational. Like, if this much fall off has happened on the basis of that, what does that say about how much effects of institutional chicanery, a la Michael Saylor? How much of this bull market is really just that, right? How much of the movement of the price from 80,000 up to 125,000 is really just chicanery going on in the financial markets, juicing, gaming the Bitcoin price? And could that potentially be a little bit of an explanation for why the dominance hasn't moved to the level that we want? I was thinking about that some this morning. I'm not convinced that that's necessarily the case, but it could be, right? It could be that a lot of institutional money is now just wrapped up. And so when people were buying Bitcoin, that doesn't actually sort of get the hand-me-down effects anymore towards the altcoins. But still, that real cash should be going, right? Those purchases should be going into the exchange complex via Coinbase. Generally speaking, Coinbase, I don't know, is Gemini a player in there? I'm not sure. So maybe, I don't know. Is it possible? So last bear market, we saw alts outperforming Bitcoin for a long period of time. So it's interesting that was the case. Maybe we could see some other kind of counter-cyclical effect that doesn't make sense traditionally for what crypto was, and maybe it's the involvement of the institutions, the big five guys. Maybe that has an effect here. I don't know. Anyways, I want to see this fall off. I'd like to see some altcoin gains. We have not had our alt season, or we did get a slight alt season, but it only came after we got decimated. I say we. I'm not really an altcoiner per se. But I want my fucking gains. So, all right. Bitcoin dominance, whatever. It seems like it wants to go sideways for a little bit longer, for quite a while longer. Maybe ETH will have to drive this if that's ever going to change. ETH is also in the institutions, so I don't know. ETH really needs to get back to all-time highs. We'll see if it actually can do it or not. ETH is also believe it or not, ETH is also going to be wrapped up into this index effect to some smaller degree. Will it ever truly gain that index effect? Will it ever get that kind of big stuff going on? I don't know. I feel like there's a double-edged sword for the big fi guys in terms of their relation to the deep state, because ETH actually does work to be able to do quite a lot of stuff. But they also use the SEC to murder a lot of that stuff. So the utility of that platform, not a whole lot has been growing or being developed on ETH. It's just all kind of steady state, the same stuff. But there's new stuff, but nothing big, right? Nothing major is taking hold there. No narrative inducing events are taking hold on ETH. The L2s sure support billions and billions and billions of dollars of activity. And some of that is, some of that's even basically legit activity. It's probably mostly just stable coins, but just in general though. Oh, and by the way, obviously it's just destroying Bitcoin's L2, but that's no reason why price has to accrue to ETH, right? ETH could just be the bus boy, transporting all of these other tokens and assets that actually, maybe those are the ones that accrue the value. So perhaps there's something to be said for that. Anyways, onward we go. Z-scores, Bcash is actually doing quite well. A little bit of maybe, I don't want to say tip of my hat, but buddy of mine called this Bcash thing. He was like, yo, Bcash is going to be doing the thing. So he's making some pretty good gains on those trades. Bcash continuing to perform here. Monero still largely ahead of the pack. What do we got down here? Who's this guy? Is FTT? Damn. Sam Bankman been trading from prison? Did they get him a covert cell phone smuggled up a rectum? I don't know. Anyways, somehow FTT outperforming the rest of the field lately. All right, whatever. Maybe some people got in on that. I don't know. All right, we covered the macro. Let's talk about gold, because gold is actually doing a version of the thing that we had all hoped it would do. So remember, I said, hey, gold's going to pretty much need until next year to start making new all-time highs. Pretty much going to still stand by that. Today is December 6th, and gold is it's still going to need probably some time before it beats that 4,400 level, which is about where it peaked out back in October. But this is a positive chart, right? It came down, set some lows, and then immediately started biasing towards the upper side of the standard deviation bands, right? And now it's just consolidating at that level. It's trying to set this area here as a nice support. It needs to make a new local high. Right now, it has been capped at about the 4250 level. Almost, for 4265. It needs to make a clear break of that level. Let's just say it needs to get to 4300. And then hypothetically, I guess it could come, make a little pullback, set a floor, set a support, and then start going up to try and beat, to make new all-time highs. Or it could just go there straight away, right? I think that what's driving this chart is fundamental events. And we've said this has been said for years and years by the gold bugs. It's been said for over a decade. It's the market is fundamentally different. The dollar is going to die. Everyone's going to go into gold. The BRICS nations are forming the alternative currency, and everything is going to move that direction as the system completely changes, has a sea change in its fabric of existence. And gold will buy you a city block. A single gold coin will buy you a city block. Okay. We've heard that narrative since forever, and I've always been yeah, but when? Been sitting on some gold for a while, and lately it's done some good stuff for us. And I've been hesitant to embrace that narrative because that's always been the narrative. So it's why should that be different now? It does seem like in a very broad sense, fundamentally, things are changing in the world. There is actually a sea change happening, and that probably is propelling gold in a very fundamental sense to heights that go beyond statistical levels. This is a perfect example of when markets make fundamental decisions, and I'm obviously, a little bit of anthropomorphization there, but when markets move on fundamental bases, that can break statistical things. If those fundamentals have changed in a very like profound way, that'll just break your statistics, right? Statistics work during steady state analysis, and obviously with the wave magic stuff, we go from short-term statistics all the way to like very long-term statistics, right? So when we look at long-term stuff like the Bitcoin regression analysis, the boundaries there, you get reasonably good extrapolated power over short time frames, over, in that case, a couple years, and you get reasonably good strength on those signals when you get close to them. And then the shorter time frames, obviously, those are easy to break because they're not really like large, broadly established economic processes. But anyways, it does seem to me like there is some okay, the United States has pivoted basically in a lot of ways out of the Middle East. Like we kind of did a little play attack on Iran, and I guess Israel is like basically genocided their neighbor, and that's pretty fucked up, obviously. But the United States is now focusing on fentanyl that doesn't come from Venezuela to get some oil, maybe. But Russia and China are like, no, we disrespect your no-fly zone. We're going to fly into Venezuela anyways. And overall, like, it just seems like, yeah, China has continued to buy, Russia's continued to buy. We hadn't seen Russia attack its neighbors in a long time, right? Russia just like invaded Ukraine, and that's a new thing, right? Russia hasn't had the gumption to do such a thing for decades now. I guess Georgia kind of, but Georgia isn't Ukraine. Those are different things. And so gold actually started its movement up when Russia invaded Ukraine. So maybe that was itself a signal like, hey, like there is a different fabric of geopolitics. Their assets were frozen. Russia has been forced in a lot of ways to convert to other assets, and that's what they've done. Supposedly they've kicked out the Rothschild central bankers from their country entirely. They're still doing fractional reserve because the wonderful magic of compound fractional reserve interest is enjoyed by all tyrants. So anyways, yeah, gold guys, like this looks really nice. Like it does look to me like ultimately this chart is setting up to tag that 4,400 level and then maybe go higher. So at that point, my statistical levels will only work for us to make short-term trading decisions potentially. Like we were able to say right here, like, hey, there's a bit of a stabilization that's going to happen before things go higher. But I won't be able to use long-term things to tell you where the peak out in gold might happen. And when things like this get rolling, they do overshoot. So gold probably will overshoot with some kind of blow off top at some point in the future here. I don't know where that'll be, but this is the point of diversification, right? If you've been holding gold and Monero and your other shitcoins, right? The shitcoins aren't so great. Bitcoin has been good. Monero has been great. And gold has been stellar, right? So holding all those things at once kind of makes you fat and happy just to sit there and say, all right, well, I don't know where things are going to go exactly, but my allocations are fine, right? So if gold continues performing, then good. And we can sometimes, throw leverage onto Bitcoin and then get liquidated and still be okay with with the world and with life and not have to go to McDonald's begging for our job back. All right. So with that, guys, I don't think there's really anything else here of import to talk about. I think we've exhaustively covered all of the main themes. Hopefully, you're basically just sitting tight in gold and Monero. If you hold gold and Monero, God, you're fucking crushing it. Like you've just been crushing it. So, I think we have a Fed meeting coming up here. Let's see, December 9th. Yeah. So next week, on Wednesday, I guess they'll lower rates. Fuck, I don't know. Maybe if the Supreme Court comes out with their decision, that'll affect what the Fed does. I haven't checked the odds and Polymarket on this one or whatever, but it doesn't really matter.
It's something like 80 or 90%
that they'll cut.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, honestly. Like whether they cut or don't cut right here doesn't matter all that much. It just matters that they're like going to cut at some point in the next couple months.
Well, and don't forget, we've had that funding stress in the interbank liquidity markets, and so the Fed has been putting little bits of money into the system, basically QE by a different name, to help stabilize that out.
Yeah, they opened that window. They opened the discount window. That closed, but I haven't been keeping up the ways in which that they continue printing money and then the euphemisms that they use for for that activity. I used to have, I guess I don't want to try and find it. There's a very specific weekly report on the Fed, balance sheet. Maybe, let's just try it really quick. Balance sheet.
I'm a degen trader now because I put some leverage on Monero.
You put some leverage on Monero. Oh, bro.
Yeah,
privacy seasons really got you.
Yeah, I had a fiat bill come up and I didn't want to pay it, so I paid the fiat bill on my credit card so I could keep my Monero.
Oh, okay. I see what I got it. Yeah. No, that makes sense, I guess. I was gonna say, like, how are you, sir? How are you taking leverage on something without having a secondary currency pair to compare against on the leverage trade, which requires you to state a fiat value of something, and this would be violation of core principles.
Yeah, that's how I did it. I had a bill come up in fiat, and I'm like, well, I could sell my Monero. I could sell like whatever Monero to get to pay for this fiat bill, but I don't really want to because I want to keep my Monero. So I paid the fiat bill with the credit card, and I was like, screw it.
That's very billionaire investor class type of thinking, though. You see, what they do to never pay taxes and to always run a massive debt is they do exactly like the United States government. They run up larger and larger debts. And how do they get away with it? Well, they have stocks. All of their value is in stocks. So they take a big loan from the banks on the basis of the value of those stocks. And that's at some minor, like a very low percent, right? Basically the Fed funds rate ish. And then their stocks go up 10, 15% a year. And then so every year, every few years, every so often, they can just say, hey, look, my stocks went up in value. Let me refinance this loan for an even bigger amount of loan, pay off the old one, and then get a bigger loan and again, backing it with my stocks. And if your debt is only going up 5%, but your stocks are going up 10 to 15%, well, that's a win. That's a win just for having money. It's like completely subsidized by the money printer. And there's no way to beat that. You literally can't beat that.
The debt gets easier to pay as fiat debases. And with me, I was a total degen and took 2% leverage on my Monero position. So if I get liquidated, I'm just 2% is just so horrible. If I get liquidated, I don't know what I'll do.
All right, we have a couple XMR chats here. Let's see. Let me know when they're on the screen and I'll read them. Let's see here. Let me go to the stream. Okay, so XMR chat. Schmoikel Sailor. I got it. Schmoikel Sailor tipped 0.00021 XMR 0.21 Monero. The reason BTUSD fell so much on the news is that people think MicroStrategy may eventually be forced to sell its BTC if Jamie Dimon and company continue to battle it like this. MicroStrategy's BTC holdings are huge, so the price would move a lot. Yeah, that is true. If MicroStrategy was forced to sell all of their stack, price is fucked, right? Probably going back to like, I don't know, 20,000 or something. But they're not, that won't happen, at least for many, many years. The worst thing at the moment that we could be looking at over the near-term horizon that could affect price would be this whole MSCI. Is MicroStrategy a fund or classified as a fund or not a fund, right? In the near term, that could cause like a few billion of outflows and then some secondary effects and other indexes that might want to do that too. Jamie Dimon and company. Oh, Jamie Dimon. I'm sorry. I mispronounced your chat here, your XMR chat tip. Yeah, Jamie Dimon. I don't know what to think about this guy. Like, bros, he's been in on this shit for a long time. Like back in 2017, he was shit talking Bitcoin in the summer of 2017 as he was buying Bitcoin, and they slammed it up to 20K, and then they listed it on the December 17, 2017. They listed on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME, which was the absolute top. And then Jamie Dimon and company dumped their bags. And so he's been involved in this whole crypto, the big five bros, like price degeneracy, juicing, milking it for a long time. So yeah, he's definitely.
Do you think Jamie Dimon owns Monero?
I don't see why he would. Like, these billionaires, they don't need Monero. They own the system. The system's not going to go fuck them. Because they own the system. Well, you don't need Monero when you are the tyrant, right?
Good point.